Sorry we're a little late here. I just want to thank everybody for coming. This is a meeting of the Tourism Committee, but it's like an informal meeting. There's no agenda. We got a couple of things that I'd like to just put forth. And as you all know, this is only what, the 6th or 7th of August. You know, for a month we've been making a lot of changes and having a lot of meetings, and some of the supervisors are involved in the business sector for tourism. So right now, what this was called for from last week at our tourism meeting is, a couple ideas that the business association group from Lake George have. We're looking for more input. We're not rushing into anything, and I said this from the beginning. We're fine the way we're doing it now, but we want to get this input to try to see where we can go forward and better to help our tourism department and the tourism community of Warren County. Also, I'm planning on another meeting, maybe the end of this month or early in September, and I'd like to have a meeting with this group and all the chambers in Warren County, like their presidents and vice presidents, and come out, and I want to get some input from the chambers of all our region on some of the ideas that we have moving forward. And I really want to involve everybody in the tourism industry, to get involved with us before we really, I'm not rushing into any, and I think you all agree with me, quick decisions. We got a few months to really stir the pot and see what's boiling. So I think I'm going to start off with Frank. He's got a little, we met yesterday, and he's got a little synopsis of some of the stuff that he's hoping that we can be interested in.
Sorry, Gina.
No problem.
Before. Pass those around?
Yeah, I got mine.
You already got yours?
Yeah.
Can I grab one more of those?
Sure.
Thank you. Dennis, I just gave mine away.
Maybe one more? Well,
Yeah, can I grab
if we need another one.
There's,
Thanks.
Supervisor Molino, I presume if we needed copies, I made 20 and brought 20.
Do we need any more? Anybody? If any, we can make some real quick if we need them. You got enough? Okay. Go ahead, Frank. Everybody knows Frank. Go ahead and use this.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, Mr. Supervisor and Chairman. Thank you for letting us participate with you, first of all. I do want to clarify one thing. The Warren County Lodging Association is not Lake George. We are Warren County in terms of our interests and our goals, and our membership is not just a Lake George group. Obviously, it's a series of hoteliers, so with the density of hotels in Lake George, naturally a fair amount of our membership is from there. But our interest is a much broader interest than that, and fundamentally, our purpose is to partner to improve tourism in Warren County, and that's the reason why we've been coming to the meetings and spending the time with all of you to try to help partner with a goal to look to see, is it possible to improve tourism in the county? We believe there's plenty of resources here. Most of us have made personal investments in the community, and we're very much embedded and ingrained here in terms of what's going on, and are looking forward to working with the county. What we were asked to do was consider an RFP to go out to look at a series of potential consulting firms with the purpose of evaluating and checkpointing, fundamentally benchmarking where tourism in Warren County stands relative to a peer group. What we passed out here today is a high-level outline that we did sit and meet with Supervisors Merlino and Dickinson yesterday on, and what I'm going to try to do today is just step you through it, to take you through what the process could be. For background reasons, so you're aware, I've gone through many RFPs like this in my prior life, through technology fundamentally, where we would look and evaluate how we were performing technology services for companies like General Electric, Westinghouse, CBS, Bank of New York Mellon was my professional career. So I've gone through many RFPs along these lines. It's honestly a really good opportunity to benchmark how we're doing against peer groups. So the purpose of the study would be to send out, from the county's point of view, a request for proposal to a number of different consulting firms, to the general population of consultants, boil that down with a scope document that's shown here today. This document is purposefully high level. It's done that way because the opportunity here is to have the consulting firms that respond. They can share with us their unique niche that they have in terms of their specific expertise in evaluating counties like Warren County with respect to tourism. If we write a very detailed RFP that's a cookie cutter for them, you're going to get back what you gave them, and so the differentiation firm to firm becomes very hard to read. By writing a document that's fairly high level, as what's shown here, the intent is to allow the consulting firms to show their stuff, if you will. So if you work with us, this is what we can do by giving them high-level parameters that they can work from. So the first point is to take a look and to review and analyze tourism performance in the county. This is basically a data collection step. Take a look at what the economic contribution is of tourism in the county. We believe tourism is the number 2 industry in this county behind healthcare. Respectfully, we would suggest, why shouldn't it be first? That offers plenty of opportunities to the residents of this county for meaningful employment at healthy wages with a goal of year-round employment. So let's go out and do evaluate the economic contribution to the county, and then look at data that measures how tourism trends are reflected against Warren County's performance here. So what we suggested here, there's a number of different metrics you can look at. Occupancy would be one, the rates at which we're charging rooms. From a lodging association perspective, we believe that a good barometer of tourism is the number of room nights you sell, and also what rate you're able to charge. That's telling us how many people are coming to town and spending the night. And so as one unit of measure, it's one, not the only one, we believe that that's a key element. So occupancy rates, what the resulting occupancy tax is, and also sales tax, and there's other measurements I'm sure that a consulting firm would come up with. But, so again, not trying to prescribe their analysis, but rather suggest some data points that we believe would be interesting from the county's perspective in looking at this. Once the data is collected, now it becomes, the next step is review and analyze our strategy and how it's been implemented in the county. This is identifying the best practices that are in the county. Last week we had a review with Trampoline. Honestly, that was a great review. The value for the money, from my point of view, this is me speaking personally, not on behalf of the association, I thought was very high for what we're getting. At first blush, candidly, it felt like a lot of money for what was described, but the quality of that team and the effort that they're putting in is a bargain. So we will find best practices, ask the consulting firm, find those best practices, but also compare and contrast with the peer group. So as you think about a study like this, it's basically a benchmarking effort that's taking a look at sister counties or regions, how are they behaving, how are we behaving, finding the best of both and summing them together would be the preferred outcome here, is the suggestion. Third point is taking a look at how we're organized, how we coordinate tourism efforts broadly. This is not a discussion about the tourism department specifically. It's a broad, think of tourism here not as the tourist department, but rather how tourism behaves as an entire entity in this county, and how do we bring that together and how is it coordinated. The phrase governance here does not mean government. The phrase governance means management oversight. So how do we look at how these things, how all activities surrounding tourism are brought together in the county? What's the oversight? What are the checks and balances? What's the management reporting? There's a whole series of things you can imagine a consulting firm might come back with when they think about, here my choice of word was governance. You could substitute management there, and it would mean the same thing. So in that case, who are all the stakeholders is what's shown under point 3. And here there's a long list, obviously. The county government's involved, the town and village governments are involved, the chamber, we have multiple chambers, convention and visitors bureaus, there's private businesses, Warren County Lodging Association being a collection of hoteliers, and there's other stakeholders, restaurants, retail shops, go down the list, all the outdoor activity suppliers that are in the area. And then again, provide an analysis of this. So there's a data collection phase and then the analytics that go with it. Point 4 talks about a fairly typical activity in my experience around activities like this, studies like this, which is known as a SWOT analysis. It's a strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. This is actually the most powerful tool I think the county could work with going as a part of the analytics here. So where are we particularly strong? You can imagine a long list of items there. I mean, one's the region. I mean, think of all the things we have. Proximity to the traffic going by the exits that make up Warren County. Our proximity to major markets. All of these would be, Boston, New York, Montreal, etc., would clearly fall in the strength bucket. What are our opportunities? How do you get them off the road? Would be something you would suppose that they would point out. What are the threats? Typically, that's going to be who are your adjacent competitors? What are they doing? How does that match? And then what are the opportunities? Things that we're not doing today that we could be doing in the future that would make a difference and move the needle, as they say. And then the last point, point 5 in any study, would be come back with the recommendations. Given all the data and observations that you've pulled together, compare that with benchmark activities from other regions or other counties, synthesize that down to a set of recommendations that would be then presented to the county for the purposes of decision making. So that's the outline format that we prepared as a starting point. This was if you please note the heading, it's for discussion purposes here. It's not a prescription. We've said many times we don't think, the hoteliers do not think we're experts in tourism. We're pretty sure we're good at renting rooms. We're pretty sure we're good at setting rates. We're reasonable at marketing our product, but that's a seriously different situation than what the county faces with marketing and promoting everything that's Warren County.
Right, that was really good. Does anybody have any questions for Frank? Let's open it to everybody, not just my committee here, or if anybody has any other questions. Because the thing that I mentioned before I started was, we are, like most of the hoteliers, and we do look at it too, is that we follow that Smith Travel Report. But in the last couple of weeks, and looking at it and finding out how many hotelers and bed and breakfasts and motels that really do send the information to them, I think we're lagging a lot in our county, and that's why I'm trying to think about getting the chambers together so that they can start pushing their prospective members that are in this business all around the county to start getting involved with that, so we can compare, the complete of what I know the tourism department puts out a report every year. We send it out to every hotel, motel, bed and breakfast and everything, and we get how many percentage back? 10?
Low, yeah.
10, 12% of them report back to us. Now, it shouldn't be a real secret how many rooms you rented for the year. I mean, we're not asking how much money you made or, how long you're open or how long you're closed. It's just how many rooms did you rent in a certain, particularly like this year will be really important for us to get this out and get it back, because it seems like we're really, I know my little business is down a little, and I hear from a lot of hotel owners, we got to find out why. As far as what I can give you information through tourism, the last real report was at the end of 2014, that we were up over 100,000 inquiries about our county. Now, not hotels, motels, bed and breakfast, any part of anything, rafting, horseback riding, it was just inquiries that came into the tourism department, 100,000 more than 2013. So we are getting people calling, but why aren't we capturing them? Why aren't we? What are we missing when we answer their response to them about coming to Warren County? It amazed me when I see the difference, and most of it is through the email responses that we get in there. It's not so much call-ins anymore like we used to have 6 or 7 answering machines, especially on a weekend, to pick up calls that people call. Now everything comes through the computer and emails, and so we are getting it, but that's my really worry, and what we all can do to work together on helping that. Is it things that we don't have that people are looking for particular right now? I doubt it, because like I said a couple of weeks ago, you could probably come here for a month and not do the same thing twice, every day. We have so much in this county that we are promoting from one end to the other end of the county, and all the little businesses in between and counties. So, I mean, it looks like this is becoming a, problem that we really gotta get our heads together and wrap it around and look into, so, we need all the, we've never really had this much interest, and I'm glad it's here, and, it's good that, we're starting fresh, and, we're still working hard downstairs. The team down there is working 7 days a week, and they're out running around. The trampoline, yes, I am pleased with, that was a great decision that was made, and I think they're gonna be a big benefit from us. But I don't want everybody to get into the craze mode that we're sinking into Lake George. We're not sinking. I mean, but there are problems that we have to, work on. So this is the stuff that we're working on. This is stuff we're trying to get everybody working with us to help us. It's, we're not all messiahs, and we're not all, doing, but I think we do a great job, and I see it from those kind of numbers. But what's happening after that, I just can't get a handle on yet, but we will. And with the help of all the groups, the chambers, we can set up a program, and we can't start it tomorrow, but we can start working on it and say, let's, January 2016, we're gonna move in this direction, or left, or stay the way we are, or whatever it is. But I really don't wanna just run out and make it look like to the world that we're really, scared or crazy, that the world's falling in around Lake George area, because it's not. So that's my little speech. Anybody on the board, like to get any comments from the board? Dennis, Kevin, I see your hand up.
I did traffic studies. I noticed last night coming at 5 o'clock, getting off 23 in Warrensburg, it was backed up to the Northway. I can't remember during midweek to have that many cars backed up getting off at exit 23. I think, you ought to do some traffic studies to see how many cars are coming into the region. Compare that to who's staying, or just driving through, because that surprised me last night. I mean, usually Friday night they're backed up, but not on a Wednesday night getting off at 23. So I think analyzing the state traffic counts would be important too.
Well, I agree with that, because I mentioned to a couple of supervisors, last week I got invited out to dinner by one of my guests, and we left at 7:15. I couldn't get a restaurant in my town. I had to wait a half hour. So we decided to run up to the Log Jam, and got to the Log Jam, and it was a 45-minute wait. And we ran over to Outbacks, and they had a half-hour wait. So we wound up at Olive Garden, which was great, good meal, but by the time we finished our meal, it was after 9 o'clock. So, I mean, I do see people around, and I do see some businesses, especially in this was last Tuesday night. So, I just don't know. We have to look into, and I think we discussed this yesterday, how many people now are renting their houses out? I know Lake George had a little problem with that, but how many people, or how are the campgrounds doing? We don't really get represented too much by campgrounds, or have them come in. How are they doing? Is camping up? Maybe more people are going to a least expensive way of getting away for a week. So there's a lot we have to look into. There's a lot of research that we really should have to do. So that's why I'm not being negative, but I just don't want to run out and start making it look like we're in a total panic, because I really don't think we are. So.
And we're not suggesting that either.
No, I
feels
understand that.
No, I think this discussion though was interesting, right? So what this short discussion points out, there's disconnects in the data and the observations. So what's going on? Actually, in terms of occupancy midweek for Warren County against our peer group for the weekdays, we're 6 out of 6. And we've been that way for months and months. On the weekends, we pick up, but we go to 4th. We're 6 over 6 overall. Rates are great, by the way, relative to peers. So there's data that's just not making sense, right? We see something over here that says, uh-oh, something over here that says good, and it's those points, I think, that warrant the effort.
I think I saw a hand, yes.
Yeah, we've seen a decline in our sales tax relative to what the past. And what sort of, what I was sort of getting at is, or trying to get at is this a problem of more data, we're collecting more data, or do we need people who are maybe more expert at tourism? I mean, what kind of firm, we have a process, obviously, to find someone, but is it that we need more types of data, or do we need, someone who's maybe even higher up in terms of their expertise, or what would make you feel good once we hire somebody?
Is that directed to me?
Yeah.
Well, to me, the better the data set we can get, the better the decision-making can be, right? Or the analysis and then the recommendations can be.
You got it.
Sales tax, to me, would be one. Obviously, it's a key element, or in my view, it's a key element to the county and the health of the county. The fact that we are blessed to have tourists come here, they're spending money that otherwise the residents would have to spend to generate the same amount of tax revenue, right? So it's a wonderful position we're in. And sales tax revenue would be an interesting, to me, would be a key data element. We know what we're collecting in occupancy tax, we know what we're collecting, and we know how that dollar amount's derived. We know that data. Sales tax data from a hospitality point of view, honestly, we don't know. We hear from this, comments like that. So that's another data point to start to triangulate a bit. To us, it makes sense that sales tax revenue would be down. If occupancy's down, that suggests that there's fewer people in the county. And if there's fewer people in the county staying overnight, then they're not eating as much. They're not shopping as much, et cetera, buying gas, all the things you have to do when you're staying over. So that, to me, would be another data point to collect. Now, the companies that there's firms that do this kind of work. That's their business. Their niches. They look at economic development would be one. Some are fundamentally based in the tourism industry. Interestingly, Kissimmee County in Florida, home of Disney World, MGM, and everything else, they use consultants to map their direction, which is a place that friggin' everybody goes to, right? But they've stepped back. There's firms. We did a fair amount of research here. There's plenty of companies. I think the opportunity, and the reason why I said that this document was purposely written at a high level, is to tease out from these firms what their expertise is. What do you know about regions like Warren County? What do you think the key data points are that you have to have in order to properly measure and analyze the impact of tourism in a community? So those are, becomes a dialogue with them down that trail, and I think you'll find there's going to be a couple that pop to the top.
Yes.
I may have missed it, but you were talking about having another meeting next week, including our chamber of commerce.
Well, it'll probably be towards the end of the month, more so I can get the word out.
Whatever it is. But I'd just like to suggest that include economic development in that meeting. I know that Warren County Economic Development is concerned about traffic counts, for example. And if we're gonna do a traffic study, let's only do one and not
Yeah.
do two different studies. So you might want to include EDC in that.
Well, and I think there was another study that Glens Falls doing a study on museums or something, wasn't it, Fred? Arts?
I was fortunate
Joanne?
enough to sit in a meeting with a lady
It's a
who's a
total
principal
of
in
all
a
we can
consulting
do.
firm out of New England, and we were just talking about generalities, and somebody said, well,
So-
what's your most recent project? And she said, well, not too long ago, I finished up doing the marketing for Williamsburg.
6.5.
And about 3 days later, I saw the city thing on the front page about figuring out a marketing thing for museums. Well, and the thought very frankly crossed my mind, why doesn't the county during this study have because you're going to interview these people and deal with them, and you're going to pick somebody and you're going to be able to tell them what you want done. There ought to be a county museum thing. And picture just a map, the city, Chapman House, Hyde, et cetera, and all the museums in all the towns, everywhere, come to the center of museums, and then you steal. You show a tentacle going to the racing museum in Saratoga, 40-minute drive, 30-minute drive. You show a tentacle going to the car museum in Saratoga, such a drive. You show a tentacle going up to Ticonderoga, 40-minute drive, whatever they are. it seems to me that if we go through this study, pick a competent person, which I'm sure will be done, or firm, things like that could be done, and, with some direction and interplay with all the other things that are gonna be done. So when I saw the city ad, I said, Jesus, it's too bad this isn't 6 months down the road. They could just make sure the city's well represented in a museum marketing plan from somebody that's done it and knows what works and what doesn't. Thank you.
So the point there is not to start a duplicity of studies. So if there's a traffic study, traffic's a key element. People come, if it's a pain to get down the road, I can go somewhere else, right? The museum work, any place that we're overlapping, there's an opportunity here to get more efficient, candidly. That would be a suggestion.
If, yes, Mike, yeah.
George Regional Chamber of Commerce. I believe there are a lot of components that are required to make this a successful meet for us to accomplish, but I think Supervisor Gary and Supervisor Molina, Mr. Chairman, you hit it right. There's a lot of data that still needs to be obtained and collected. As managers of operation centers on the Northway and in the village, the amount of traffic that is coming into our area is just incredible, and that's where we can start to gather some information. Unfortunately, from a chamber, we do not have enough people to be able to staff it to gather the information that we would like to obtain from all these folks that are visiting our area. So I think it's very critical and important that we do reach out to our business communities, our hoteliers, our restaurants, retailers, and try to obtain as much information as we can in terms of spending from these individual businesses. I think that's going to be probably one of the most components for us as we start to move forward. But it is, you all know and you see it, as Supervisor Gary said, the traffic is incredible. The amount of people coming into our business centers, we don't have enough time and staff to find out where everybody's going. And not everybody's going to Lake George, mind you, you all know that. There are so many destinations within not only Warren County, but the entire Adirondacks that folks come for their recreation. We have great resources, we just don't have enough to take care of what the needs are for those individuals. But we can start by trying to gather more information. It's very important.
I think this, yes, Mr. Kenny, I'm sorry.
I'm all in favor of, doing a study, and, I'm behind that 100%. I had a conversation with Bob Blaze the other day, and in his opinion, this is the best summer ever for Lake George, ever. Sales tax is not down, sales tax is up 0.9%, and occupancy tax is up 14% from where we were at this point last year. That's a variable figure, that fluctuates with the season.
Or the rates.
Yeah. I missed the last meeting, I apologize for that, but, I was having surgery, but, I love you like a brother, and I hate to disagree with you, but I disagree with the fact that we're leaving the tourism director position vacant, because, for a number of reasons. One, it has no impact on the budget, because, the benefits and the salary are paid out of occupancy tax. So there's no positive impact on the budget. Two, it's inevitable that we're gonna fill that position. Sooner or later, we're gonna fill that. Tourism drives the economy of Warren County. There's no question about it. And to leave that position vacant, I think we're sending a bad message to the public. And I think that the meeting that you hold at the end of the month, you should be inviting attractions as well as hotels, because it's not all about hotels, it's about the attractions in Warren County too. So I'd like to see them included too.
All right, thank you, Bill. Well, brothers always disagree once in a while, but they still love each other. Mr. Stroud, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, Frank, the governance structure, that's an interesting thought. And you mentioned Kissimmee. Is there a model of a governance structure that you think, or anybody in your group thinks would work for Warren County?
Well, I think there's a lot of different ways to organize and then lead and manage. You know, one thing that's clear is the county has an obligation to oversee tourism from an occupancy tax point of view, for sure, right? There's probably others, but you have that obligation as the supervisors in this county. Every regions and counties attack this problem differently. Most use some form of a convention visitors bureau, some third party, or some other activity to drive their tourism strategy and execution. Most do that. The minority do it locally. Our view on that is that the reason for that is there's just more economy of scale, if you will, with companies that just do this for a living, because you can manage more than one county or more than one region. To the north of us, for example, Essex County uses a firm called Roost, an organization, not a firm, an organization called Roost. They started out Essex County only, and now control's the wrong word, sorry, bad choice of words. They now are responsible for the tourism activities in the adjacent counties to Essex. So, for example, Hamilton County has gone to them and said, would you please do this for us? Now, that doesn't mean that Hamilton County nor Essex County let go of their obligation to manage tourism dollars and how they're invested. There's actually the Roost reports available on their website. It's a comprehensive report. It's like 44 pages of data. So there's different models, Supervisor Stroud, that are out there. One of the points on this document would be, point 3, would be to evaluate that and to see, compare and contrast. It's not an outcome, it's simply an element of the study.
One reason why I brought that question up was that there's some major players, hotel and entertainment industry, have come in and suggested that as we move forward and look for a model that would work for us, that we hire a team, and the conversation did come up as a professional person versus a professional team. It seems that the conversation was that the team provides the dynamism that we might need, and that that professional outfit would work with our tourism department somehow, in some kind of arrangement of governance. That's why I brought it up, because I understand these conversations are going on in the background. And so I didn't know if we started to firm anything up at this point.
The suggestion on the study would be to include that, to take a look and see, well, how do other counties behave? They're looking at the data, for what it's worth, it would suggest there's regions that are outperforming, and it's probably worth understanding why. So what's different in, pick your favorite county. One that's in our peer group is Dauphin County. That's Hershey Park, Pennsylvania. They have mountains there, a little bit shorter than the ones here. They have an amusement park. They have a lot of hotels, actually, many more than Saratoga or Essex. They're actually the closest peer in terms of, from a hotelier's perspective, in terms of number of rooms. They have a totally different, they're also geographically placed against our major market, which is New York City. They're basically equidistant from us. So that would be, part of the study would be, well, what are they doing? And how's that working? And the answer is, it's not working perfect in Dauphin County. I'm sure if we went down there and asked, they'd have their things that, they don't feel are firing on all cylinders, but they have some things they probably think are pretty good. That's a best practice list. We have some things that we think are doing pretty well. That's our best practice list. Add the two. Right? We don't have to crack the trail new ground on every single thing. There's a lot of reference points out there. Kissimmee is like probably not the right one. But I found it interesting when I was doing some work on this that I never would have thought with the tourism energy in the greater Orlando area that you would have found those metropolitan markets saying we need to go do a study. Niagara Falls just did one. Interesting fun fact from there, Niagara Falls measures average stay in minutes.
I'm not going there.
That's
Going for an hour.
that's pretty sad.
Yeah.
We have some
Right?
hotels doing that, like George.
They looked at the water and they left. Right? So but when you look at that, you know, imagine we were in Niagara County. You have one of the natural wonders of the earth sitting there, going by every day. People want to go see it, but you can't keep them there. That's not good. So they have all that traffic information too, yet folks are, you know, those with a passport, they're bopping over to the Canadian side.
Well, a lot, you know, I'll make one more comment and then I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. You know, we look at the Smith Travel Report too, and I have it here for the last 4 weeks. And I know a lot of people are nervous about Warren County, but, I mean, if you take a look, and a lot of people don't read this, but if you take a look at, this is, July 5th through July 11th, okay? And, Essex County was down 7.0.
In what?
Saratoga County, in rooms, it was down 6.5, and we were down 6.6. Now, I'm giving you the 3 general areas around here. So, you know, it's down is down, but it just seems like, but then if you really, you know, and look around,
Is that the 28-day trend, Gene, if I could ask?
I'm just going week by week. This is the first week. You know, in the second week, Essex County was down 1.2, Saratoga County was up 1.7, and we were down 4.4. But that's 1 week, you know, it's individual. Why, you know, but you turn around and look at New London, Connecticut, they were up 12.3. These are averages from the same week last year. So they were up 12 points. So what did they do as a special over there? Everybody ran over there, you know, to go and stay with them that week. So, but if you look at the trend, I mean, Saratoga in the week of July 19th to the 25th was down 3.7. We were down 4. So it's still in the general area, but Essex County was up 1.1. So I mean, this is like something that's bouncing around.
So one point, Gene, on that would be there's things, there's a part of the study. One would be to look at near-term statistics, like what's happening now. And then the other would be what's happening on a longer-term trend line. Because I agree with you. The most recent data that came out through the 25th, we were down 3.8 in occupancy, Essex 1.9, Saratoga 1.1, where Dauphin County was up 3.4. You know, that could have been in the last 28 days.
Yeah, well,
So that could be they had a theme park day.
Yeah, well, like in the last week, July 26th to August 1st, New London, Connecticut was up 10.2, and so was Atlantic City. Saratoga County was down 0.4, and we were down 0.4. So, you know, there's a lot of trend there that's, you know, I'm looking in our area and away from our area. So,
A little bit different thing.
You can't have an option.
who else had a hand up? Yes,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Is, with this, with.
Could you just state your name?
My
so-
name's, Jeff Partone with Six Flags Great Escape Lodge. When we get to the start report, which is great information, it doesn't really break it down geographically either. So, you know, as you dig deeper into your business and the trends, sorry.
That's
as you dig
the
deeper
microphone's
into
above you,
the
yeah.
business and the trends too, we need to know where they're coming from geographically, locations. So, as we're performing our studies, Smith research is great, but how many, you know, what percentage is coming from Canada? What percentage is coming from New York City? What percentage is coming from Boston? And then what are the impacts in those individual areas that are causing the trend differences? We look at those trends on a regular basis for our own business, and understand that right now, Montreal, the exchange rate is off 30% this year. Day traffic obviously could be improving because they could be coming down taking day trips, which is improving the traffic sets. However, they may not be staying overnight because the exchange rate is such a differential that they may just be coming down for a quick day trip and going back up. So, you know, we really gotta kinda take an overall look geographically too, and what are the different trends in the different region, because these other areas down in Pennsylvania aren't necessarily depending on Canada as much as we're depending on Canada. So if Canada is off and these Pennsylvania regions are taken from New York City, we're getting a smaller piece from New York City pie, and we're getting a smaller piece from the Canadian pie, therefore having an overall greater impact.
Yeah, thank you, that's a good point to put out. Yes, Dennis?
I wrote dynamism down on my paper here. Check that out. Apparently not reading enough. I wanna kinda respond in general overall here. I agree wholeheartedly with most of what, Supervisor Kenny said. When you called on him, I did that knee-jerk reaction, I thought David came in the room, but fortunately it was Bill. I think the key here, for the meeting is the, outline that we have for, putting out an RFP. And I think a lot of the issues that we're discussing here are all things that are gonna come back to us in the RFP. They're all good points, they're all valid, and they're all things we need to look at. But I think we need to concentrate on the RFP and decide what we're gonna do there. And I think as well that the director position is key for me, that we have this report first, so that when you go out and look for a director, you know what you're looking for, to fill whatever the final recommendation is gonna be here that we decide on. So lastly, I guess I have a question for Frank. First, I want to thank you, Frank, for relying on your expertise and spending a tremendous amount of time to come up with this. To me, it's deeper than the first blush, you know. Anybody can do a outline, but as you go through it and try to analyze it, my question to you is, if this were your task to do this RFP, is this what you would do?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just, when I was talking about sales tax, I didn't mean to say that it was down now, but that over the winter, it was down, and there was a discussion I had with Paul Dusick about whether sales tax was down because people were buying, online and so forth. And so my point was, obviously, that problem doesn't have anything to do with tourism, but if people are collecting data, if we could ask them, we could expand it slightly to look into that problem, maybe we could kill two birds with one stone with try a suggestion. So I'm just making it as a suggestion to maybe find out if we're losing the sales tax for that. If not, I don't wanna change the focus or anything, but it might be cost effective or whatever. That's just my suggestion. Of the sales tax.
Dennis, yes, go ahead.
In my feeble mind, Jim and some of the other, we're gonna put this RFP out. We're hopefully gonna get some responses. We're going to vet those responses. And when we do, I think that's when a lot of these issues will come up. You're gonna have somebody here representing some company, you could say, okay, what other things are you gonna look at besides tourism and sales tax? What other interests do you have? Or if we have an interest, we can say, you know, if we throw museums on this thing, are you gonna be able to incorporate that in the report?
Well, I don't wanna overburden it or.
Well, I think that all is gonna come in the next step.
What I would suggest is if a firm came in and responded to your RFP and they did not include sales tax, they would go towards the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
Right, how do you evaluate the impact of tourism without factoring in tax? All of it.
You know, and that's the other thing that even bothers me a lot too. We're one of the few counties still left at the bottom of only collecting 7%. I mean, some of the ones are up 8, 9, 10, 11%. And I know Ocean City and Atlantic City, and they're up there, 8, 9, 10%. yet it
We
doesn't
don't
seem...
take advantage of it.
Huh?
We don't advertise the lowest sales tax in New York State.
Good point.
Amazing.
Good point, we could put an email blast out tomorrow and say...
Put it right at top of tourism. Lowest sales.
That's a good point. But, so the board here now, should we make the next step? I mean, this is what our decision is to, if we wanna go ahead and make this next step, follow 99% of this stuff, if we have some different things in, and bring it to the full board at the end of the month.
I would like to make a resolution that we do that. If I get a second, I have something on that. Bill?
All right, Mr. Kenny, you second it?
Yes.
All right.
What exactly are we gonna have to do to this, to turn this into an RFP?
Well, we have to work with Julie, she writes the RFPs up, we'll work with the tourism people, to make sure that it's laid out the way it has to be. I'm not into writing all that up, but that's Julie from purchasing, that's her job, and she comes up with the whole, and then we'll all be able to look at it before the next meeting, hopefully, maybe, I don't think it'll be any sooner than that, depending on how much work she's got, but we hand her this stuff and the kind of synopsis that we're looking for, and then she comes and actually, we did one back in 2010, which she can look back on that one and get some ideas of what we did at that time for an RFP.
If
That's
it's
fine.
appropriate, I'd be happy to help.
Yeah, well, we'll get, you did a great job on this, and it's a good start, but, that's Julie's job, as far as getting that together to bring it back to our committee to, go over. Mr. Conover, I think?
Yeah, I would be more comfortable, asking our tourism staff to take this outline and maybe perhaps some of their own thoughts.
Well, that's what, yeah,
Sit down with Ed Bartholomew, our Chief Economic Development person, and then take this to the next level, so to speak, and then come back to this committee so that we could look at it, in a little more detail, a little more precision, because Ed would know what's being done elsewhere. We have data already. They could do a data dump, and they could review it, they could talk to our existing consultants about what additional information, we refine this a little bit, task our staff to do that, and then at that point, convene at whatever time, a week from today, 2 weeks from today, and then review it, and then have something a little more precise to take to the full board.
I agree.
yeah, no, I think that's a great, I mean, that's what we're really planning, that's why I say, I don't know if we can get this done in the next couple of weeks, and I don't wanna really go tumbling into it, but we need to get another meeting with the people that have to lay this all out before we send the RFP.
Well, I would suggest in my resolution that we ask the tourism department, Julie, I'd like to see Frank there,
Yeah.
a representative from them. I think Ed Bartholomew's
Right, excellent idea.
choice, he has multiple hats. I would put that as part of the resolution, have them
Okay,
sit down
I'll
at a
second it.
that's,
workshop meeting.
yeah, that's what that's what we'll do. I
The
mean, that's,
recommendation is that then they come back to us
Right.
with something a little more, okay.
all right, so the motion is to get it going and having these people meet together and come up with another layout of what they all think should be, and we'll bring it back to the committee. Dennis, is that the way, all right with you?
Yes.
Okay, and, Mr. Kenny, you second it? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's gonna be moved. With that, any other things that'd like to come before us, and,
Can I just ask about timetables and timeframes? So, this RFP eventually goes out, it's fully vetted, and that takes time for the responses to come in, questions and updates, to hire a consulting agency, for them to come in, and we have to give them X amount of time to collect the data set, evaluate the data set, present it to us with recommendations. So, that's a long time before we even get to that point. They then give us a list of recommendations, whether it goes to a Ruth-type organization, whether the tourism department kind of augments itself with this or that, or, other observations and recommendations they have. How does that follow through get implemented? And if there is a transitioning, how long does that transitioning take? How far out does this get before we actually start doing things to make an impact. We're already looking at a lodging association group that's saying things are down. We have other people in businesses telling us things are great. So there's differences in information, and if the people that want to see results now are focusing on getting this RFP going, the process by itself is slow. It's not going to happen till, I mean, you're looking at, let's say they come back and they say tourism department needs to revamp its TV completely. By the time we get this results, we're going to be into January, I assume, maybe February. We can't collect TV components in February for a summer commercial. We have to wait till 2016 summer to collect TV assets for a 2017 production. So you're not going to see results from this until, at a minimum, 2017, but you get the assets allocated and in place and rolling out. So, that's just a concern of I don't know how soon you're expecting.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, that's why I asked for you to sit down with the other agencies. Those are the kinds of things that people that are well-versed in the RFP process. There's some things on here, for example, that perhaps you move out with more quickly than some of the other elements. For example, it struck me that item 2II, for example, is something that perhaps we could move out more quickly. It's also something that we might be able to budget for more quickly, as opposed to some of the other elements, because there's going to be a financial element to this as well. What's it going to cost to produce all of these products? And there may be things that we're not envisioning today that we're going to see tomorrow. So that's why I think we need to be, careful here. We need to move forward. We need to make sure all the affected parties are in the boat, and that the chambers have an opportunity to look at the work program, and anyone else that's interested. So so I think you will need to look at this, each of the elements and any other elements, think of that in those terms and other terms, and come back to us with where you are at a particular point in time, whatever that is. It may not be that you're able to produce something in 2 weeks. I don't know. But at least it'll begin the process, and perhaps there are things that we can do more quickly here that don't necessarily relate to some of the other elements, right?
Yes. I'm just thinking that with the staff down, a person already, there's a lot of us doing other jobs and taking on more responsibility, which we're fine with, and we're running the program as it is. And we're trying to implement some new initiatives for 2016. So as a department, the way we currently are, we're looking at revamping our TV for next year. Absolutely has to be done. In order to do that, we have to film this August to get our products in place. So we're operating under our current set of visions to get these assets in. They can be repurposed to a degree, but that's to make an impact on the 2016 season. So if we're in limbo for a certain period of time where we're waiting for this data to be collected and implemented, evaluated, and here's our recommendations, if that comes in February, we say, okay, these are good recommendations. The marketing plan now calls for, we want to highlight family activity in the area, or whatever their strategic position is, and we say, okay, now we have to go get those videos and photos and copywriting to kind of highlight what they're saying. So let's say they want to showcase families. We have to collect that when the weather's good, so it would be 2016 summer.
I haven't heard anyone today say that this can all happen in the next 30 days.
Well, the whole point.
I think the chairman said right in the beginning that this is going to take.
Yeah. Well, the whole point of this is that we're moving forward right now.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say.
I mean, in the
Why
last
should they not
month,
be
we've
moving forward?
made 4 or 5 changes down there. We started with the logo and a few other things. We've changed some of the email blasts, the way we're gonna handle it. So we're making changes now. And hopefully, and this is my opinion, that when this all comes about, whoever comes in and looks at it says, hey, the last 6 months, you guys are doing what we would tell you to do. Maybe they won't, I don't know. But, I know the headlines in the paper and the Post are we were headless, but unbelievable, we have 4 or 5 good heads working on it at the same time, not just one. And I agree with Bill, we might have to get a director, but right now, even a new director, by the time we RFP and interview and everything, probably wouldn't start till beginning of 2016. For the next 5 months, we're working with 5 or 6 ads. And I've been saying this from last month, and I'll say it today, we're on it every day. And I hope we can make a better difference by the time the survey comes.
Well, I think the point in response to your question, there's a million of them, is that whoever you hire is gonna come into the tourism department and find out what you're doing, where you're going, and how you're going about it. It will be part of it. You may have a transition period where you don't have everything you'd really like to have, but I think within a year or so, you will iron all those out.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of clarify that this is a long process, and to the people that are saying that, you know, we wanna see results now to combat this decrease.
Right.
You know, this is something that would take effect, you know, certainly in the next summer season, and then well into 2017. That's the note.
Michael?
Yeah, just as a chamber who represents 370 some odd business, to answer your question, Peter, I'd say, go ahead and continue to do what you're doing for us. And, you know, let everything else fall into place as it comes, but, whether you have an interim director appointed or whether you just continue to do, working collectively together, perfectly fine, at least in our point of view, but you guys are doing a good job. Do it, and we just can't stop.
Well, we want continuous information, especially from you, Mike, and you, Frank, you know, stop in and say, you know, we're working on it. This team down there has been working, I would almost say 7 days a week in the last month. They've been out on weekends, they've been out at night, trying to do different things that we haven't done before. So, we're working on it, and I'm fully confident that we're gonna put, but we're reading all the other statistics, it's tough, like in the wintertime. I know my business suffered because of the below zero in February. I mean, I got people canceling because, you know, the men call and say, my wife doesn't wanna go out there, it's 10 below zero. You know, but look at Florida, they were sleeping in rest areas most of the winter. People from the Northeast just driving down there, they didn't have hotel rooms enough for everybody on weekends, so they were sleeping in rest areas. So there's a lot that makes tourism rumble. And a lot that we all have to have the weather great, they have to have the economy, people are working, and they have that extra money, and then it makes our job easier. But right now, we're coming out of that recession, I think, and hopefully, you know, things will get better in our whole country, not just Warren County or Essex County or Saratoga County.
So you need to change your hourly rate.
So.
I make a motion with adjourn.
All right, all in favor, aye, and thank you all for coming, and please.